Hello, Anita, and thank you for joining Shoes in Bitcoin.
Hello, Valeria. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a huge pleasure having you with me today, talking about not shoes, but of course, Bitcoin. And I would really love to know more about your experience and how did you join that wonderful Bitcoin world?
Yeah, so I'm starting a little bit with my background. I was a web designer very early on. I started in 1999, building my first websites, and also starting as a self-employed web designer back then. And then in the last 20 years or so, or in the following 15 years, 16 years, I was doing a lot of e-commerce and projects and building online platforms. I was also involved in a lot of small scale, regional art and commerce projects. And in 2016, I decided that I want to be self-employed again, because at that time in 2012 to 2015, I was working for big companies. And then I thought, okay, but what basically is the thing that would also make me happy in the future, where I can contribute to the economical and social situation around the world? Because e-commerce was for me a little bit too what else do you want to buy? Here in these developed countries in Europe, everybody has almost everything. And I thought it's not interesting. It wasn't interesting to me anymore. And I'm always open to new things. So I was very early on with all those developments in the internet. I was earlier in founding a website where you could exchange co-working places at a time when there were no co-working spaces in Vienna, for instance. And the same, I think, is true for Bitcoin. I was looking for a new field of interest and possibility for me to work and contribute and also earn some money, to be honest. And in 2017, then I went to a talk about Bitcoin and blockchains. And there I heard about Bitcoin in a way that was completely puzzling me. It was like a big aha moment for me. And from then on, that was early 2017, I started to research all the things that you could research for free, and also read a lot of books about Bitcoin, and decided that as a single entrepreneur, it would be quite a good opportunity to educate others about Bitcoin. And that's where it started, and that's what I do now.
Great, that's wonderful. So you have so much experience, and right now your mission is to teach other people and educate them about Bitcoin and the technology behind it, which is wonderful. And you have your own book, you have published it, which is called Learn, Earn Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious to know how, because I personally myself, I wanted to monetize, let's say, my knowledge, which is for sure not such extended, and I don't have such abundance of knowledge yet. I have many things to learn additionally. However, how did you manage to monetize? How did you start monetizing your knowledge about the technology?
Well, to be honest, it always seems so easy and so fun. Everybody is successful on the internet, but to be honest, it's quite some work. And but it's possible, So I started also like you. I did not know very much about Bitcoin. I mean, I have my background in e-commerce and a little bit of programming and stuff like that, but Bitcoin was completely new for me too. And it took me quite a time on really a lot of self-education and free courses and things like that. And then I wrote my first book in 2017, 18. And that was actually the way to learn the best, because if you are preparing material to educate others, then you first have to understand the stuff. And that's the way how I learn, basically, or I have been learning always, like asking questions, which I also do in my podcast, the Anita Posch Show. And all those educational moments I had for myself, I put into words. And I also offer a German Bitcoin online course, and also did lots of in-person seminars before COVID. And so I practiced all the time this knowledge and how to educate people in the best way. And to be honest, I think if I had my book 4 years ago or 5 years ago, it would have been great, because it's basically what I would have needed back then. It's a comprehensive overview of all you need to know if you want to start getting into the Bitcoin space in either way, like just from like the educational standpoint, but also if you want to save a little money in Bitcoin, then you also find tips and tricks in this book.
Great. And it's in English, or you have it in several languages?
In the moment, it's in English only, but I'm currently translating it to German. It will be translated to Russian and to Chinese. And we will publish it in Spanish in Spanish in November, when I'm going to El Salvador, because there are 2 conferences that I will visit, and I will also speak there. And there I will release the Spanish version of it.
That's great. And I would say very big names in the industry and knowledgeable and also very technical people were recommending that book. So for sure, I have to read it. So what's the best way to have it?
That depends on the country where you're in. I mean, you can get it on Amazon wherever you are, I guess. And for American people, it's also on Barnes and Noble. For people in Germany and Austria, it's on Thalia. So actually, it should be listed in almost every bookstore online. And you can also order it in a bookstore physically. And if you can't do that, there's an ebook version that I'm selling on my website. So yeah.
Very good. And the ebook version can be bought only with Bitcoin, with a token.
Yes.
You don't take 1 Bitcoin for the book.
No, that would be a very expensive book. Yes, exactly. On my website, it's only in Bitcoin, but you can also get it on Amazon and on other ebook sales sites for fiat currency.
Great. That's great. Very, very good initiative. And I wish you lots of success, additional success, and this book to be everywhere around the world, because I do strongly believe that people need to know about Bitcoin, and not only to know about Bitcoin, but to understand it from the right people. So back to your show. You have 136 episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
4, I think, 134.
34. Okay, so
something like that.
Okay, so it's an impressive number. And as I see, you have interviewed also Adam Beck, you have interviewed Andreas Antonopoulos. So, who, by the way, he wrote also a book about Ethereum. You talk to him only about Bitcoin, right? So you don't have any.
Yeah, I'm doing a Bitcoin only podcast, so I'm not talking about other cryptocurrencies. I think there is enough to know about Bitcoin, and I'm also in my personal opinion, Bitcoin is the best of all the cryptocurrencies, because it's the only one where there is no leader, there is no centralized organization behind. It's the most uncensorable in a way, and most decentralized of them all. And these are the properties why I think that, or these are the properties where I think that they are needed to be a global money for emerging countries, people in authoritarian countries, which is basically my first and foremost interest in Bitcoin. I'm not so much interested in number go up and being rich, or like in the developed nations, like to have a digital asset like gold or something. I mean, of course, it's also a use case. I don't say that it's not a use case, but I'm more interested in the stories from the human rights sector. Basically, how can Bitcoin help people in emerging countries, or in Zimbabwe, for instance, where the banking system is really not working at all, where you have hyperinflation and things like that. So most of my podcast episodes are about these topics. It's about technology, but I hope it's understandable for like lay persons too. And about, the humanitarian aspect of Bitcoin.
Definitely. But you have mentioned Zimbabwe, and in general, in the countries with, I would say, broken banking system, or I would say not only in the countries with broken banking systems, but in the poor countries where they do even not have any devices. I mean, how this could work with Bitcoin? Because there are people who are speculating around it, and I just want we to make it clear, if it's possible, how is Bitcoin possibly to be implemented in such countries where we are lacking technology in general?
Yes, of course. If you don't have internet access, and if you don't have a new phone, a smartphone, some sort of, then you can't use Bitcoin in a way. I mean, there are possibilities, but they are much too complicated. So yes, it's true. That's the wave of adoption that needs to go to these places too first. So first you need the internet and a smartphone, and then you can adopt Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. Or it's like the same with, you can't use Facebook if you don't have a phone, and no internet connection. So it's a question of time. And these technologies always are developed in the regions where there is the possibility to develop them. And it takes some time, but it will be definitely the case that also Bitcoin will be used in these countries much more than it is now. And not to forget, I mean, Nigeria and African countries are the leading countries in peer-to-peer payments, for instance, in the world. So because you have high inflation there, and people are very well educated, like in the big cities of Nigeria, for instance, the youth, there are so many young people in Africa, and they are very well educated. They want to work, they need work, they can go into the internet and find jobs there, and then they can send themselves money over Bitcoin in form of remittances or their salaries and things like that. So they are globally connected and will be more globally connected in the next, let's say, 5 to 10, 15 years.
Great. That's great. And yeah, it's absolutely natural this at some point to happen, as doesn't matter how many disasters are happening around the world. At the end of the day, we're improving as human beings, and that's what we are creating. At least I would love to think like that.
Yes, I'm also an optimist on that. I'm a techno optimist. There are so many people who say Bitcoin is not successful. It's a failure, and it will never help. And I mean, there were also people who said the internet is a scam, or we don't need email. And I think it's basically the same situation now. And these are the same kinds of attitudes. And these don't help at all, because if I want to bring something new and innovative and forward going to the world, I can't always talk it ill. Or do you know what I mean? I can't say it won't work, because then it won't work. So we have to be optimistic, because otherwise we lose hope and don't want to do anything anymore.
Definitely. And how is the situation right now in Austria? Do you guys manage to make recently any meetups, or everything is remotely?
We are starting with meetups again. So on the 4th of November, there will be a meetup in Vienna. There is also now a 21 Bitcoin Austria combination meetup going on. And yeah, events are coming back now.
That's great, because yeah, I do believe that when people start meeting each other again, we're going to centralize this, to centralize the decentralized energies, and to make this mass adoption or mass knowledge adoption, let's call it like that, not the usage of the technology itself, because it's going to take some time, but at least the knowledge about the technology. That's great. And so you have mentioned you're planning, you are not only planning, but actually it's scheduled, and it's going to happen for El Salvador. That's why you're translating your book into Spanish right now. What do you think about the situation in El Salvador? Okay, they have accepted Bitcoin as a legal tender. However, there's some kind of paradox with if we talk about freedom and the vaccination there. So what do you think about this paradox?
I don't know what you mean with the paradox with vaccination. I usually don't speak about COVID-related topics because there are others. I'm not an expert on that, and so I don't talk about it. So the situation in El Salvador. So in principle, it's very interesting, because El Salvador has been a country that is very much depending on the US dollar and on the US economy. And because they don't have their own currency, they only can use the US dollar up until now. And so they are very dependent, and the US has printed trillions of US dollars in the last year since the pandemic started. And so that means that the value of the US dollar is sinking or shrinking. But the El Salvadorans don't get the money that the US Americans got from their government. So they have been losing out, and they were dependent on the US all the time. And I think that the country, or the Bukele and his people, they saw in the Bitcoin Beach project, and I guess together with Jack Mallers from Strike, how it's possible to use the Lightning Network and Bitcoin in a small scale community at El Sonte, at the Bitcoin Beach. And I guess that they realized that Bitcoin can be a tool to free yourself from dependency on other or bigger economies, or like political situations and nation states like the US. And so it's a sovereign country now. It's a more sovereign country because they adopt Bitcoin as their legal tender, which is, of course, I mean, the situation that it's adopted as legal tender has led to a lot of discussion, because Bitcoin is basically, or wants to be, a freedom, a free alternative, a free to choose alternative to the current system. So it's a little bit weird that it's now a legal tender, which means as a shop or as a merchant, I have to accept it. But as far as I understand, the law goes in so far as that it says, if you cannot receive Bitcoin for any reason, then you don't really need to. And on the other hand, I think, I mean, I will see when I'm there, you know, I'm sitting here in Austria, so what do I know really, to be honest? I only know what I read, what I hear, what I see on Twitter. So then I will build my own opinion on that, and then I can much more in detail speak about it. But I think in general, I think it's a good move from El Salvador, and also the development with volcano mining, I find very interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, and we'll be looking at your Twitter just to keep myself up to date with the things that you're going to experience over there, and that you're going to share with all of us. Because yeah, we are talking from distance. We're just looking at some news and releases from other people whose are different point of views, and it's better when we have someone from our group over there who can see from the maximalistic eyes and to transmit it to the rest of the world. So definitely we'll be looking at you and your updates. You have mentioned lightning, and I see also on Twitter that this is the lightning. So are you specialized on lightning and micro payments, or what is
I
that?
mean, I think Lightning is an integral part of Bitcoin. So Lightning is Bitcoin. It might be from the technological side. You have Bitcoin, the network, and the asset. It's the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, which is basically, we call it the base layer. And the Lightning network is a top above, it's on another level in a technological sense. And it enables micro transactions, which are going very, very fast and to almost no transaction costs. One of the problems that you I'm sure know about the Bitcoin blockchain itself is that it only can handle like 7 transactions per second, which would not be enough to serve the global population. And so there was the need for additional technologies on top of Bitcoin. And one of those is the Lightning Network. And I think it's Bitcoin, it's like a little bit like if you pay on-chain, that's more like you're using your savings account, for instance, your the money that you save for long term. And your Lightning transactions or Lightning payments are more like your day-to-day payments, like buying a coffee or something like that. And so it belongs together. And from that point of view, I'm also writing about the Lightning Network and explaining it in my book, but the guide is for both technologies, because they belong together.
Right. Thank you, Anita. And are you running your full node at home, or in general, have you ever run a full node?
Yes, I'm running a Raspberry Blitz, and I've learned quite a lot of it. And because I'm a WordPress and PHP programmer, but not so much into programming these things, and I'm also not a GitHub expert. So sometimes these things are over my head, but there are a lot of groups like Telegram groups, or also here in Austria with Bitcoin Austria, my colleagues, then we help each other out, and you can ask people how to run a node, and you will always find someone who gives you an answer, which is a great feature in this community. And yes, I run a Raspberry Blitz, and I also, my podcast is on the Sphinx app, or in the Sphinx app, which means that if you listen to my podcast in the Sphinx app, you can, if you want, send some Satoshis while streaming, which is a great possibility for content creators and podcasters like me to monetize your content. And there will be many, many, many more use cases that the Lightning Network is bringing for content creators, like, for instance, paywalls for videos, or communication over the Lightning Network in the Sphinx app, you know, like a chat app, but you won't have spam there because you have to pay a small fee, a very small fee, but you have to pay a fee, you know, like to be a part of the community.
Where
So
can I find it? I'm sorry. Do you see me?
you mean
my screen?
you mean what are you looking for?
That what you are mentioning, a link to Sphinx.
Sphinx. No, the Sphinx app.
About it.
Hold on a second. I'm looking it up. It's not on my website in that. It's like sphinx.chat.
Oh, okay, I'm going to
So
could you please?
SP
Okay.
SPHIINX.
Okay. Okay.
Dot chat.
Chat, and it's a chat, and it's something similar to that what they do on Twitter right now. With,
yeah, hold on a second. I'm looking it up in on my phone.
Okay. Take your time.
So it's an app. It's a sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. It's an app. I mean, there is no other website.
It's an app, exactly.
Okay.
It's an app, and then inside the app, you can chat with each other. Can you see this?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm going to check later on it.
And
SPHINX.chat. So
exactly, you can. So basically, you can have a community of podcast listeners. So that's called a tribe. So my Anita Posch show is one of the tribes in the application, in the app. Mm-hmm. And then the people can talk with each other, but they also can listen to a podcast, or to my podcast in that case. And at the same time, send Satoshis to pay me if you want to, if they want to.
Endorse you, just like appreciate.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is just, it's not, they're not obliged, it's not mandatory to be endorsed in order me to listen to your podcast. It's
no, you can, it's not mandatory, it's voluntary.
Okay.
Another opportunity to do that is called Breeze. That's BREEZ.
Okay.
.technology. That's also an app, or they call themselves a platform, not an app, where you can use it as a Lightning wallet, but you can also listen to podcasts in it. So they also have the same principle in a way like the Sphinx chat app.
Yeah, so for sure I'm going to have a look. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anita. Very nice. So I have learned many new things today from you. And I would like to have one final question, if you don't mind. Could you please share something about any future projects, in case they're not a secret, something that you are planning to do?
Yeah. So as I said before, I mean, the one thing is doing my podcast interviews one weekly. The next thing is the translation of my book to German, Spanish, and Russian and Chinese. And then, as I said, the El Salvador conferences. And then the year is over. And for next year, I think I want to go back to Zimbabwe or to another African country to find out how Bitcoin is developing there. So how the adoption is going. And I plan on translating the book or parts of the book to Shona and Ndebele, which are the languages in Zimbabwe. And that's basically my planning for now.
Very good plan. I wish you lots of success with all of them, and I'll be looking at your profile to know more about all these projects that you're working on. Keep it up. It's really a huge pleasure talking to Anita Posch.
Thank you very much, Valeria. All the best to you and your podcast too.
Thank you very much, Anita.
Thank you. Bye-bye.